There is a silence you learn before language. It's not the silence of emptiness. It's the silence of holding. You learn to hold your breath to hear better. You learn to hold your questions so they don't weigh anything. You learn to hold your laughter so it doesn't spill. You hold your tears until they dissolve back into your body, becoming a kind of internal salt. You become a curator of stillness. The world called you good. They said it with a sigh of relief. You're so good. It felt like warmth. But inside your small body, a different chemistry was at work. That goodness was not a feeling. It was a discipline, a vigilant, preemptive ceasefire with the world around you. Your first panic attack didn't feel like shaking. It felt like perfect, motionless control. It was the panic of seeing a parent's forehead tighten a millimeter and your entire nervous system launching a silent protocol. Disengage, appease, fade. Do not be a source of friction. And here is the silent, brutal paradox they never told you. The trigger that once kept you safe, the erasure of your noise, your needs, your emotional truth, is now the very trigger that is silently breaking you. You were not avoiding punishment. You were performing a magic trick for survival, making your own humanity disappear to keep love present. And now, decades later, in a life you built yourself, you find yourself breathless in the quiet, wondering why success feels like a waiting room, why love feels like a performance review. Why do your own desires feel like reckless, deafening demands? This is not anxiety. This is the echo of a silenced self. This is the archaeology of a ghost, and we must go digging. To understand the silent panic, we must name its architecture. This is not a personality quirk. It is a psychobiological adaptation. First, conditioned attachment. Secure attachment forms when a child's distress is met with consistent, soothing co-regulation. But when a caregiver is fragile, overwhelmed, or conditional with affection, the child faces an impossible dilemma. Express need and risk abandonment, or suppress need to maintain connection. The good child chooses the latter. Their attachment strategy becomes hypervigilant compliance. Love becomes a transaction you must earn every single day. You learn to read the room not for fun, but for survival. A slight shift in tone, a certain type of sigh, the way a door is closed, these are not trivial details. They are the primary data your safety depends. Your emotional radar becomes so fine-tuned that it picks up tremors others don't feel, and you must act. You must adjust. You must make yourself smaller or brighter or quieter to stabilize the emotional atmosphere. You are not a child playing in a house. You are a technician in a control room, your small hands on levers you can barely reach, responsible for keeping the entire system from overheating. Second, the freeze response, codified. Freeze is a biological imperative when fight or flight is impossible. For a child who cannot fight their caregiver or flee their home, freeze becomes a lifestyle. But it's a functional freeze. You go to school, you achieve, you are polite. But internally, the limbic system is in a low-grade, perpetual hum of threat. The nervous system learns, expression is danger, visibility is risk. Your baseline becomes a state of tonic immobility, a deer in the headlights, but the headlights are the vague possibility of disappointing someone. Your body learns to hold its own energy captive. The urge to run becomes a slight tightening in the calves. The urge to cry becomes a pressure behind the eyes that you learn to disperse. The urge to shout becomes a swallowed lump in the throat. This is not peace, it is captivity. Your biology is screaming to move, to express, to discharge the energy of being alive, and you have become the warden of your own aliveness. The silent panic is the hum of that trapped energy, vibrating at a frequency just below the threshold of sight, a constant wearying tremor in the foundation of your being. Third, the false self-construction. To survive, you build a false self, a persona designed to meet the expectations of your environment. This false self is competent, agreeable, needsless. The true self, the messy, needy, passionate, curious, angry child, is exiled. It goes underground. The silent panic is the vibration between the two. It's the true self, buried alive, sending up signals of distress that the false self must constantly quiet. This shapes your entire being, your nervous system. It is not calibrated for safety, but for scanning. It is a satellite dish perpetually tuned to the emotional frequencies of others. Your own internal state, your hunger, your fatigue, your joy, is static, background noise. You feel other people's feelings with a startling clarity, while your own seem vague, distant, almost theoretical. Your emotional patterns. You don't experience emotion, you manage it. Joy is tempered lest it become annoying. Sadness is privatized, folded neatly, and put away where no one will have to see it. Anger is unthinkable. It is the ultimate threat to the bond, a wildfire that must be smothered before it even sparks. Emotions become data points about others' moods, not experiences of your own. You feel your mother's frustration and know you must be extra quiet. You feel your teacher's impatience and know you must have the answer ready. You feel your partner's slight disinterest and know you must become more interesting. Your own sadness? That's just a signal that you're being too self-indulgent. Your own anger? That's proof you're becoming difficult. Your identity. Your identity is externalized. You are a mirror. You are a list of accomplishments. You are what you provide. You are the relief on someone else's face. Ask yourself, who am I? And you might only hear the echo of, who do you need? Me to be. There is no solid core, only a collection of reflections. You are a verb, not a noun, an act of pleasing, a process of accommodation. Your self-worth. It operates on a deficit model. Worth is not a foundation you stand on. It is a currency you earn. Each day starts at 0. You must perform, please, and produce to get back to baseline. A compliment is a temporary deposit. A critique is a catastrophic bankruptcy. You are always in the red, always hustling to pay off the debt of simply existing. You believe you are loved because you are good, not that you are good because you are loved. The causality is reversed, and it turns your life into a never-ending audition. This is the silent panic. It is the ghost of the unmet need haunting the machinery of the perfect performance. It is the sound of a heart beating a survival rhythm in a body that is supposedly safe. It is the cognitive dissonance of living a life that looks perfect on paper, but feels like a beautifully furnished prison. The walls are painted in the colors of approval, but the air is thin, starved of the oxygen of authentic connection. You are both the prisoner and the guard, and the panic is the silent alarm that goes off every time the true self rattles the bars, a muffled shriek from the basement of your soul. What is the cost of this preemptive war? It is not a dramatic collapse. It is a silent, internal leakage of the soul. The primary cost is an invisible grief. You grieve for a self you never got to be. You grieve for the storms you never weathered because you were too busy calming the skies for everyone else. It is disenfranchised grief, a grief for losses no one else recognizes. The loss of your own spontaneity, your own healthy defiance, your own unperformed joy. You mourn the person who would have been if they had felt free to be loud, to be messy, to be demanding, to take up space. You attend this funeral alone, for a ghost that only you can see. This grief has no ceremony, no condolences. It is a private rain that falls inside you, slowly eroding the landscape of your spirit. This creates a profound internal conflict. The Jungian shadow. The exiled parts of you don't vanish. They gather strength in the basement of your psyche. The good child's panic is, in part, the terror of that shadow breaking through. The polite executive has a hidden, furious rebel inside. The perfect caretaker harbors a resentful, exhausted child. You are in a civil war where you are both generals and the battlefield. One part of you, the false self, is impeccably dressed, saying all the right things, managing the optics. The other part, the shadow, is pounding on the door, screaming to be let out, covered in the mud of authentic feeling. You spend immense energy keeping that door locked. The panic is the sound of the pounding. As the poet Rilke wrote, "Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act, just once, with beauty and courage." Your dragon is your own repressed life force, and you have mistaken its roar for a threat instead of a cry for emancipation. You've been taught it's a monster to be slayed, when it is, in fact, a vital part of your royalty waiting to be reclaimed. The emotional exhaustion is ontological. It is the exhaustion of being and not being simultaneously. You are exhausted from the labor of translating your entire inner world into a palatable, non-threatening dialect. Every interaction is a diplomatic summit. Before you speak, you run a subtle, high-speed calculation. Is this comment helpful or just my opinion? Is this need legitimate or just needy? Is this feeling too much? Should I fold it into a smaller, more digestible shape? The mental load is ceaseless. It is the exhaustion of a double life, where the most important relationship, the one with yourself, is conducted in secret, in a language of shame and apology. This leads to the existential tension that Nietzsche pierced. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. You have spent a lifetime organizing your internal chaos into sterile, obedient rows. But a soul without chaos is a star without fusion, dark, cold, and heavy. The silent panic is the ache of that unbirthed star, that dormant chaos, pressing against the walls of its container. You feel a profound longing for something wild, something unchecked, but the very thought of it triggers the old protocol. Danger, contain, control. You live in what Seneca, the Stoic, might call a state of constant premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. But the evils you anticipate are not external disasters. They are the microscopic catastrophes of being perceived as difficult, being a burden, being too much. Your mind is a rehearsal space for social failures that haven't happened, a theater of potential disappointments where you are the director, the actor, and the terrified critic. The weight you carry is the weight of the unlived life. It is heavier than any failure. It is the gravitational pull of a universe of possibilities that you dared not enter for fear of losing the small, safe planet of your goodness. It is the career you didn't pursue because it seemed impractical. The love you walked away from because it felt too intense, too real. The creative project you abandoned because who were you to think you had something to say? This weight is not made of stone, it is made of phantom limbs, of paths not taken, of voices not used. You are not tired from doing. You are tired from undoing yourself, in real time, forever. The constant sublimation, the gentle erosion of your own edges to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. So how does this silent panic wear its adult mask? You might not recognize it as panic. You call it being thorough, being considerate, having high standards. Let's translate. You might, in relationships, be a conflict phobic, empath. You can sense a partner's mood shift before they can. You will apologize for things that are not your fault, preemptively smoothing edges that aren't even rough. You mistake intensity for intimacy because drama feels familiar. It replicates the high-stakes emotional scanning of childhood, while peaceful, secure love feels unnerving, like a language you haven't studied. Its very stability can feel like boredom, or worse, a trap, because your nervous system is wired for the subtle tremors of conditional love, not the steady hum of the unconditional. You become an emotional air traffic controller, managing everyone's feelings to prevent any crashes, believing it is your responsibility to ensure everyone lands safely, even as you run out of fuel yourself. In career, suffer from chronic imposter syndrome, not because you're incompetent, but because any success achieved by the false self feels like a lie. You are a closet catastrophic, over-preparing for meetings to the point of burnout, not out of diligence, but from a terror of being caught unprepared, which to your nervous system equals being unlovable. You are praised for your reliability, but inside, you feel like a fraud waiting to be exposed for the simple crime of being human, of not knowing everything, of having a limit. You may be the one who stays the latest, who volunteers for the extra work, not out of passion, but out of a deep-seated belief that your worth is directly tied to your utility, and to stop producing is to risk becoming obsolete and therefore unlovable. With boundaries, your no has a question mark at the end. It sounds like, maybe, if that's okay, unless you need otherwise. Your body's boundary is not your skin. It is the perimeter of another person's discomfort. If they are unhappy, you have been invaded. You feel their disappointment in your own body, a sinking in the stomach, a tightness in the chest, and you will often violate your own needs to make that feeling in them, and consequently in you, go away. Your body is not your own. It is a shared space, and others' emotions have a right of way. With self-worth. Your worth is a report card you carry, and everyone you meet holds a pen. A stranger's frown is a failing grade. A friend's canceled plan is a scathing review. You achieve worth, but the high lasts only seconds before the internal meter resets to zero. You are a bucket with a hole in the bottom, constantly pouring in accomplishments, accolades, and affirmations, yet never feeling full. You are addicted to the earning, not the having, of love. In emotional responses, you have a delayed reaction time. In the moment of stress or slight, you are calm, rational, and accommodating. The false self is online, managing the situation. Hours or days later, in the safety of solitude, a wave of rage, grief, or panic hits you in the shower, in the car, in the silent dark. This is the exiled true self finally getting a signal, through the static. It's the emotional bill coming due. You also experience phantom guilt. Guilt for having needs, for resting, for occupying space, for saying what you think, for simply wanting something different. This guilt has no specific source. It is the ambient background radiation of your childhood adaptation. In identity, you have hobby dysmorphia. Your interests are often what you believe are acceptable or productive. Spontaneous, playful, useless joy feels illicit, almost dangerous. You ask, do I actually like this, or do I like that it makes me look likable? You may have a closet full of half-started creative projects, abandoned because the voice of the inner critic, sounding suspiciously like the voice of conditional approval, whispered, "That's not good enough. Who do you think you are?" The unlearning begins with the brutal, gentle art of self-witnessing. Not fixing, not judging, witnessing. It starts by catching the protocol as it launches. In the moment your partner seems distant, instead of frantically entertaining them, you notice, my body is bracing. My mind is scanning for what I did wrong. I am preparing to shrink. When asked to take on an extra project, instead of the automatic yes, you feel the internal flinch and think, I am agreeing to a task while my body screams for rest. In a moment of excitement, you catch yourself. I am editing my joy down to a more appropriate level so I don't overwhelm anyone. This is not about stopping the behavior yet. It is about seeing it, bringing the invisible labor into the light. You must become an anthropologist of your own silence. Where did you learn that this particular need was dangerous? What was the original look, the original sigh, the original withdrawal that coded this into your cells? Was it the time your excitement was met with a weary, "Not now, honey"? Was it the time your sadness was called dramatic? Was it the time your anger made a parent cry, turning you in your own mind into a monster? You trace the roots of the silence. You meet your past not with blame, but with forensic curiosity. Unlearning is the process of rehoming your attention, pulling that satellite dish away from the heavens of other people's moods and pointing it, with great effort, into the dark, fertile soil of your own inner landscape. It will feel lonely at first. It will feel like abandonment. It will feel selfish, even cruel. Because you are abandoning your oldest job, the job of managing the world's emotional weather. You are firing yourself from a position you were never meant to hold. The silence that follows will be terrifying. Into that silence, you must learn to ask yourself the simplest, most revolutionary questions. What do I feel? What do I need? What do I want? And you must listen for the answers, not from the voice of the false self that immediately translates wants into what's sensible, but from the faint, often confused voice of the true self. You are not dismantling the good child. You are finally listening to them. They were not bad. They were a genius of adaptation, a survivor of incredible creativity and resilience. You are now informing that brilliant, terrified child, the war is over. I am here now, and I am stronger than the silence. You don't have to scan the horizon anymore. You can come home. Your job is done. Healing is not about becoming someone new. It is about repatriating the parts of you that were sent into exile. It begins with the nervous system. You must teach it a new definition of safety. Safety is not the absence of conflict. Safety is the presence of your own self, even in conflict. This is a literal physiological retraining. Practice micro-groundings. Feel your feet on the floor. Name 5 things you see. Feel the texture of your own clothing. This is not cliché. It is a neural retraining. You are pulling your consciousness out of the scanning pattern, which lives in the head, in the future, in other people, and into the sovereignty of your body, which lives in the present, in sensation. You are learning that your body is a place to inhabit, not just a vehicle to carry your anxious mind from one people-pleasing event to another. Somatic experiencing is key. The held freeze wants to thaw. The trapped energy of a lifetime of suppressed emotions wants to move. It might show up as a sudden tremor in your hands, a need to shake your legs, an unexpected wave of tears that seems to come from nowhere. Let it. This is not falling apart. This is the body, finally feeling safe enough to release the oldest holding. You are not being hysterical. You are completing biological cycles that were interrupted decades ago. Then, inner child reparenting. This is not metaphorical. It is a psychological practice of profound emotional honesty. In a quiet moment, see that child in the sunlit room, the one holding their breath. Kneel, look them in the eye, and say what no one ever did. You do not have to be good to be loved. Your needs are not an inconvenience. Your anger is a boundary. Your sadness is valid. Your joy is welcome in all its loud, messy glory. I am here. I will not leave you. I am not angry that you exist. I am so glad you are here. You do this not once, but again and again. You become the reliable, attuned caregiver you needed. When you feel that phantom guilt for resting, you speak to the child. It's okay. We can rest. We deserve rest. When you feel the old panic rising at the thought of a conflict, you reassure them. I will handle this. We are safe. Our worth does not depend on this person's mood. Emotional boundaries are the new language. They begin with the most basic syntax. I feel, instead of, you make me feel. This simple shift moves you from the role of victim-reactor to the owner of your own experience. They sound like, I need to take a moment before I respond. I can't hold space for that right now. I hear you, and I see this differently. That doesn't work for me. At first, this will feel like speaking a foreign language with a thick accent. Your voice may shake. You may feel dizzy with guilt afterwards. That's okay. You are building new neural pathways. Every clean no is a brick in the foundation of your self-respect. Shadow work is inviting the exiled parts to the table. The rebel, the needy one, the selfish one, the furious one. Ask them with genuine curiosity, what do you need from me? You'll be surprised. They don't want to destroy your life. They want to join it. That rage, It is the part of you that knows your worth and is furious that it was ignored. It needs you to set a boundary, to finally say, "This is not okay." That neediness? It is the part of you that is starved for authentic care. It needs you to stop and truly nurture yourself, to ask for help. That selfish one? It is the part of you that knows your life belongs to you. It needs you to make a choice, just for you, simply because it brings you joy. Tend to them. Listen. Integrate their energy. The goal is not to become carefree or irresponsible. It is to become integrated, whole, to allow the good child and the true child to finally hold hands, to let your kindness arise from abundance. I am so full, I can give, not from fear. I must give, or I will be empty and alone. To let your competence be an expression of your gifts, not a shield for your perceived inadequacy. We end with a quote from the Jungian analyst, James Hollis. The first half of life is devoted to forming a healthy ego. The second half is going inward and letting go of it. Your ego, this false self, this good child persona, was built for survival. It served a vital purpose. It got you here. It is time to thank it for its service and to listen to the softer, deeper voice beneath it, the voice of the soul. The goal is not to fix yourself, but to understand yourself. And in that understanding, to find the ultimate quiet rebellion, to stop preemptively abandoning yourself to ensure you are never abandoned by anyone else, to stand, finally, in the silent panic, and realize the only thing you need to calm is the fear of your own magnificent, unfiltered, perfectly imperfect human presence. The silence is not a command anymore. It is just space. And in that space, you can finally hear the sound of your own heart, not as a warning, but as a drum, beating the rhythm of a life that is finally, irrevocably, your own.